We have 10 people here already. Everyone, I request you to please send your attendance in the chat box. You all can send it to everyone or to me in personal. That's all right. Okay. So today we shall be discussing about the basic factors that you need to keep in mind when you're trying to teach English online. For that matter, you can also refer to this data to teach any other subject. However, we'll stick to language to be precise in order to look at it in a little more detail. So, starting with this proverb by Mahatma Gandhi, which was said, adaptability is not imitation. It means power of resistance and assimilation. So, I suppose we are all aware here what adaptability means, right? Many people have this thing like since the okay, someone has their video on. All right. Yeah. So adaptability is not imitation. These days, as we see, the times have changed. The teaching methods have to evolve quickly. And we see that a lot of institutions out there, a lot of even private tutors, teachers around the globe have been just complaining about the very fact that there is a pandemic, there are these problems, there are accessibility issues, there are issues with a lot of teaching techniques just because they are used to some other way of teaching and now they can't change that. So they are just simply waiting that one day we'll be back in the classrooms with our blackboards and our chalks and we'll continue teaching the way we've been teaching for a century. But that is not how you can actually survive such situations. When you are facing such changing times, we need to be adaptable. We need to learn that it is not about imitation. It is not कि हम ऐसा क्यों करें अगर लोग कर रहे हैं तो. It is also about you need to know. When you say adaptation is not imitation, it means power of resistance and assimilation. Here, power means control. You need to be able to be in control about what you want to resist and what you want to take in. Just because the world is doing something, that is not a reason to do it. However, just because you want to stand out is not a reason to not do something. So you need to be completely aware and you need to be able to justify why you would want to go with the world or against. So adaptability is not imitation. It does not mean that if you are adapting to the current times, you are simply copying what others are doing. Okay, so here we will be looking at the teaching techniques, considering the very fact that we have a situation at hand in which we have two choices. We can either adapt and learn how to deal with it and proceed with our work, or we can sit and whine about it and think that we are unable to do anything because there are 100 problems to count. Okay, moving ahead. When you look at the few pointers to start with, the first one is study the platform thoroughly. Now, there was a lot of difficulty since online teaching came into practice more frequently and at a larger scale since the pandemic started. The teachers were facing extreme difficulty because of not understanding how the platforms function. And many teachers who have been on a tenure of 20 years, 22 years, such teachers have had a great difficulty in dealing with the students online, to manage the class and a lot of things. So first, you will always pay attention to studying the platform thoroughly. Whichever platform you are using, there are a lot of platforms. There's Zoom, there's Skype, there is Google Meet, there is Microsoft Teams, there are other platforms which are being used by schools, colleges, and a lot of educational institutions. So whatever platform you are using, you need to study the platform thoroughly. It shouldn't be that you have a lot of facilities, a lot of features available on your platform, but you are unaware because of which you're not even using them and just struggling with minimal features. We don't want that. So you need to study your platform thoroughly. It will hardly take you 2 days to surf inside out of a platform, but you need to be well aware what features you are being provided, how to use those features, how to use those features as tactics to manage your class, etc. So you need to study your platform thoroughly. All right. The second feature is technological requirements. Now, we all know that since online learning came into practice on this large of a scale, many people started getting quicker access to internet. People installed Wi-Fi. All the institutions which did not have good internet connections speeded up their internet connection. So we need to pay attention to all the technological requirements, the kind of system you need, the kind of setting you need, the kind of internet you need, the connectivity, the mic, the speakers, all of it, whatever are the technological requirements, plus any kind of, you see the last point, eliminate technical obstructions, any kind of obstructions that could be technical, causing miscommunication or barriers to communication, you will have to eliminate. For example, you should always have a backup source. You should maybe have a backup source like a battery or something for situations like power cuts, for situations like loss of internet, that it's the rainy season right now. Often due to heavy rains or cloudy weather, we lose internet. So you need to be prepared with another network or something. You have to manage that. You will have to look to it, and you should always have a backup plan. Because having a reason that my internet was lost or there was a power cut in my area is not really justifiable when it comes to education. There are multiple students just looking up to that one teacher coming on time and attending a session. The one teacher gone and all those students are wasting their time. So that's a lot of time wasted of a lot of people. We need to always have backup. So you need to eliminate all technical obstructions, and you need to be completely prepared with all technological requirements. That is again something that you need to be well researched with. Next, privacy and safety. Now, I suppose we have a lot of female teachers also here. Majority, yeah, I see majority of the teachers that we have here are females. So when it comes to your privacy and safety, online platforms, yes, we know that it is not very safe out there. It is not very, you cannot completely be open about it and speak the way you are in a classroom, because it's not a confined space. There could be strangers entering your class. There could be times when your meetings get hacked and such situations. So again, technological requirements also counts, where you need to be aware that if there is some kind of hack, some kind of, you can say, trespassing in your meeting, you need to be prepared with it, that how will you deal with it. And that preparation is again something that you need to discuss with someone who's good with that technology, and they will guide you through what you can do about it. Coming to privacy and safety, there are many teachers who do not prefer switching on their video. You can do that. That is completely all right, unless and until it is absolutely necessary. So there are certain measures that need to be taken care of, after which you can freely speak with your students. You can be completely rest assured that no stranger will be entering your meeting. Your students cannot screenshot your screen, etc. So these are all features. You will choose your platform according to that. कि कौन सा platform is giving you that kind of flexibility. Okay, so when it comes to your privacy and safety, you need to be aware of those things. Next comes train and provide a pattern. Now, when it comes to training your students, you need to provide a pattern. We often see now for months we have been teaching our students online, and we realize that every teacher, although the same platform, same material, same students, same subject, same class, everything, but two teachers teaching the same thing is not the same. Correct? Online, we are explaining. It is not just explanation. You are training your students. You have to train them in a manner, and you have to provide them with a pattern. Every teacher has their own pattern. That is all right. But the students should be aware. They should get well accommodated with the teacher's pattern. For example, there are some teachers who would prefer to give more of examples, diagrams, and more of visual representations. There would be some teachers who would give more of auditory representations and make them repeat a lot, make them talk again and again. There would be some teachers who would make them speak a lot. They will again and again give them topics. For certain things, they will want the students to keep answering, and then they will correct it. So every teacher has a different way of teaching. But your way of teaching should be consistent, because when it comes to online teaching, not all the time is the student accessible enough that you can actually reach out to them, you can punish them or anything, and they should not be getting confused. Because if they get confused in online platforms, even the students at times struggle with how to ask, what to ask, how to write that sentence, how to frame it, because Classroom, we have seen in classrooms often, if the students are not comfortable in asking the question in English, or they are not able to frame the question itself in English, they often tend to ask it in their native language. However, when you look at online platforms where there are multiple students attending, students often get a little conscious about what language they are writing, because if you tell them, okay, you have to type your questions in a chat box, possibly they will be more cautious, because now they have to type their questions. They can't type it in their native language, they have to type it in English, and they know that they are not able to frame it. So there are a lot of things because of which the students need to be made comfortable, and you need to provide them with a pattern, so that in the first place you are not giving them anything to be confused about. Other than the content, they should not be confused about how the teacher is talking, why is she saying this suddenly, okay, what is this game that she's playing, how is she doing this, what is the pattern. It should not be confusing. You need to provide a pattern. If you play exercises, if you play games with them, if you take interactive sessions with them, they should be aware what is happening and how this teacher conducts the session. Okay. And lastly, we see space and resources. Now, when we talk about resources, that includes your technological requirements, it includes your knowledge about the platform, it includes your data, whatever you have prepared, whatever you will be displaying on your screen. Obviously, an empty screen is not something that would keep your students very attentive. So there has to be something on the screen that maybe, even if they're just sitting and staring at the screen, you have to share something that has to pass through their eyes all the time, so that they grasp it to some extent. So again, when it comes to resources, the content, it should be well made, it should be organized, it should be attractive. When I say attractive, it's not all floral and sparkly. Obviously, we are all aware that when I say attractive, we are talking about something that is not very, if simply I just put up a slide where it's just a white slide with black writings all over it, and really small writings, and the whole page is filled up, the students will just look at it and turn away. They will not really bother reading. Even if they're staring at the same page for 30 minutes, they will not bother reading. Why? Because they just formed, it's like the first impression. They just looked at it and they thought it's a lot of work. So you have to give them something which is highlighted, which has proper fonts, it has colors, it has something that is pleasant to the eye, so that the students enjoy looking at it. When you have highlighted your points, when you have put up certain colors, you have made your presentation in a manner that if the student is looking at it and you say one word, he will quickly look through the document and the page, and they will see that, okay, there, that's the word, and that is the sentence that she's talking about. So all these things, these all count as your resources. Annotations that you are using, if you're using the whiteboard, how are you writing, what kind of handwriting you are writing in, how are you managing to draw. Are the students who are attending the session from their phone able to even see it? Because on your phone the screen is obviously smaller. If you are writing it too small, they will not be able to read it, or they might face difficulty just zooming in, again zooming out. If you're using the complete whiteboard and you're using it from a PC, obviously your screen and their screen have to fall parallel in some way that they're able to understand it to the same extent as you're trying to teach. So you have to keep all these factors in mind. When it comes to space, by space we mean the physical space, the setting where you will be conducting your class. So whenever you are conducting sessions, you should be well aware that you should have enough space. You should have all the things that you will need handy. You cannot be leaving your session, getting up, okay, I'll get a pen, okay, I need this to note down, I need to get my annotation, I need to get props. If you're using any kind of props, you're using any kind of costumes, whatever you are using, you need to space your surrounding accordingly. You need to have a quiet space. You need to have an arrangement in a way that the light does not fall on your back. If obviously the light source, whatever, if it is a bulb, it is whatever, or the sunlight, or a window, if you're sitting right next to a window and the window is behind you, all the children will see is just a dark face. They will not be able to see any of your expressions. They will not be able to see what you are talking and how. They will just be able to hear you. So that's as good as no video. Okay, so there are times if you have to show them certain actions, you have to show them your facial expressions, you're teaching language, these factors count. So whenever these are the things that you have to consider, you will also consider your sound spacing, you will consider your lighting, you will consider that you will always sit against your light source, you will always sit in a closed space which does not have a lot of disturbance, you will sit in a place where you are clearly audible to them, they are clearly audible to you, you will not sit too far from your device. Okay, all these things count in space. You should have all the things that you will need handy, you should have water, whatever you need. If you need things during your session, you should have everything handy, and you should arrange it and set it up in a manner that if you're sitting on a chair, if you have a table or anything, it should all be set up in a manner that you don't have to constantly pause your meeting or arrange it in the middle where the session link gets disrupted. All right, anyone has any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
All right, moving ahead. Now, when it comes to your content, when it comes to your teaching, is someone saying something?
Yes, I have a question.
I'm sorry if you're saying something, you're not audible. Can you?
You said the second point, the previous slide.
Okay, to the previous slide, yes.
You said a technical technological requirement of the first point itself. The platform thoroughly, like for example, when you are using Zoom or MS.
Okay, I'm so sorry. You're talking something about the first 2 points, but your network is, I suppose, you're not audible very clearly. If you don't mind, can you type your question in the chat box?
Fine.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll type there and later on you can address that.
All right, sure.
Thanks.
We'll move ahead. You can type your question and I'll get back to you. Yes. Now, talking about your content and your teaching methods, the first comes your learning objectives. Now, usually when you used to teach in a classroom, if a lot of you used to teach in the classroom, so classroom has this luxury that when the teacher arrives and writes a topic on, the title on the blackboard or whiteboard, that is when the students get to know, okay, today we are doing this topic, and that is completely all right, because they can ask you instant spontaneous questions about it. They can ask you, okay ma'am, but we were doing this topic, what about that, and etc. There can be a brief discussion about why and what are we doing. However, that is not the case when it comes to online classes, because when you are conducting a session online, when you are trying to teach something online, the students need to be well aware in advance what you are going to do. If not in advance, even if there is something, okay, you are teaching directly in the session, you have to still start with that title on the board. So you will either type it in your chat box or you will display a slide that will have the title of what we are doing today. You should be clear about your learning objectives of the day. Whatever session you are taking, if it is a 40-minute session or if it is a 2-hour session, you have to make it pretty evident and clear to the students first that what will they be studying today and what will be the points that you will be covering. If they have any questions regarding that, in the sense of the topic itself, they can ask it right away. Because what happens often is that if you do not provide them any learning objectives, they are completely coming unaware to the session that what are they going to study. And often what happens that if the teacher starts with a topic directly, either the students will say, okay ma'am, but in the previous session we were doing something else, I asked you this question and I think you forgot and everything, and that disrupts the flow of the topic that you have started. Or second thing that can happen is this child will not say anything, attend the complete session, and then go and tell his parents that the teacher is not having it very organized. Last time she said that she will take this topic and today she started with some other topic and I'm not understanding anything because I was mentally prepared for some other topic. And then their parents will barge in with, you all are not organized. So you need to be well aware of that. You have to pay attention to your learning objectives and you have to provide your students with that. So first thing, you will always let them know what they are learning today, at least for the day. If not a week plan or if not a complete chapter plan, you will at least provide them the day's plan. Okay, so your learning objectives. Second comes the expectations from the students. Now, if you are conducting an activity, you expect the students to be interactive. You expect the students to somehow respond frequently. You will accordingly give them, you will accordingly give them allowances or the permissions on the platform. So you will let them know what you are expecting out of them. You will not directly start with your topic, and after a point you're just asking there a question, and no one is aware that they have to answer, or maybe they've just switched on and they're listening and they're not bothering to even answer. But in the start itself, if you let them know that these are the expectations from the students that you have for the day, that they have to respond frequently, they have to keep reading what you're showing, etc., they will have to be aware, because at least they will know that they have to be you can say they have to concentrate enough that as soon as the teacher asks me, I should be able to respond. So that is one thing. The next is classroom management. Yes, you cannot be, now when it comes to online classes, it is not very convenient to be just throwing students out of the class, or because that is no more punishment, right? You can't be punishing them, you can't all the time be complaining to their parents. Then how do you manage your classroom? Again, when it comes to technological details, you can use technology at your benefit. You can, like for Zoom, we have mute all options where the participants are not allowed to unmute themselves, so they cannot at least disturb the group. You have the option that you can keep the chat to yourself only, so that if they are disturbing the class in any way, the messages will be received only by the teacher and no one else. So if the host is receiving the messages, they can take appropriate actions accordingly. Other classroom management methods, where if you want your students to not switch off their video, or you want them to not switch on their video, you will have to give them strict instructions accordingly. You cannot allow, you can give them permissions accordingly. You will have to study your platform thoroughly in order to understand that. Further, group activities and cooperative projects. I'm sorry, there's a typing error there. It's cooperative projects. So group activities and cooperative projects. Now there are certain platforms that allow groups to be formed and separate chat rooms to be formed, where if you give them some kind of an activity where they have to form a group and they have to discuss certain things and then answer, they can form their separate chat rooms and they can discuss those things. Now why are these important? Because when students used to attend offline sessions physically, it was not only the content that they were learning, correct? They used to make friends, they used to socialize, they used to meet different type of people, they used to cooperate with each other, they used to even quarrel, they used to argue, they used to debate, they used to get punished. There was a lot that those students were learning when it came to morals, ethics, behavior, socializing, etc. But those are not the things that are very easily reaching students now, especially the students who are new to school. There are a lot of students who have not visited school yet or not seen a school for real yet. There are students who have attended school for like 1 year or 2 year, and after that they have started again with online sessions and have been taking the same for the 2 years, past 2 years now. So in such situations, the teacher holds the responsibility to not only give the child content, data, information, knowledge, but also the wisdom to use that knowledge. If you're telling your child, if you're telling the students that, okay, this is what happened in history, but you're not telling them what you're learning out of it. If you're just informing them that this is your geography, but you are not really telling them how is that useful, how, like for me at least, I don't know about all of you, but for me at least, like for 12th standard, we had all of these differentiate, derivatives, integration and everything, and we used to do it well. But those were like 2-page solving. You solve your answer question for like 2 pages, and after 2 pages all you get is a 3-line answer, and that 3-line answer is your final answer. So we often used to have the question that where in life are we going to use it? And unless and until we get that answer, we don't have a perspective to do it. So it is the responsibility of the teacher to constantly come up with activities, games, any kind of projects that you can give to your students, take tests, keep it interactive enough so that they get to know each other also. There are times there are 40 students who are attending the same session every day together with the same teacher, but all they know is just the name of the other person. That should not be the case. So the teacher should try their best to inculcate these values in the children so that they can try to connect with each other, they can try to take help from each other. Today we see that when our students, if one is absent for one day, the next day they will bother the teacher with, okay, I was absent and I can't understand anything that you're teaching right now. And we cannot really blame the student because he is not in connection with any of the other students to be taking any notes or trying to solve it by itself, and then take help from the teacher when he has doubts. They will straight up come to the teacher and request that you need to teach whatever you taught yesterday again, which is not practically possible. So you need to be that link that would connect those students coming from different backgrounds, sitting in different rooms, and are just connected by a network. The teacher needs to be the binding agent. All right. Okay. So, sir, you are asking regarding the platform, that how can you find the details from the start to end about all the features of a platform? Okay. You can do that. Yes, you can do that, or you can search YouTube. You can talk to someone who is good with technology. You can directly, if you're working for an institution, you can request your institution to arrange for a session or to arrange for a complete program where they will train the teachers with the platform, the basics, how to use the platform, and how you will bring it to your benefit is up to you. But at least knowing what the platform is giving you, what the platform is not giving you, what you will have to manage with, what are the limitations, what are the benefits, all of these things. If you're working for an institution, you can request your institution itself to provide you with that program. If you're not working for an institution, if you're a private tutor or something like that, or you're not that much in strength, that many people, you can again refer to YouTube. You can watch 2-3 videos about what all it is giving. You can directly open the platform. You can just click buttons and check whatever they're saying. If you just go to any button, any key, they will always tell you what this does. Correct? So you can go check. It will give you shortcut options. Like right now we are on Zoom, right? So when it comes to Zoom, if you just go, you move your mouse pointer to the mute button and you don't press it, you will automatically see a pop-up there which says mute my audio, and in the bracket it is saying Alt+A. It is already giving you a shortcut that instead of moving your cursor each time, if you're typing something, you can directly press Alt and A together to mute your audio. Again, when it goes to the chat box or it goes to the participants, Alt+U, pause share, Alt+T. So you can just move your cursor around, go to different options, see what it can do. Okay. Okay. So I am not very good with the technology part. So I am here to be training you all with what you can do. How you will be doing it is different areas of expertise. So you will have to refer to that. When it comes to technology, I cannot really guide you through Zoom that well or any other platform that well as someone who is from this expertise would be able to do. And secondly, yes, you're talking about the power cut situation. You need to be aware of different, you can try, if you have supposedly, if you have a 40-minute or 1 hour session and 25 minutes or 30 minutes into it, you lost your power connection. All you can do is, if you, as you said that you have Geo Wi-Fi, right? So now if that is cut, you can directly connect it to your phone quickly, or you can at least in advance connect your PC to your phone and later just connect it to your Geo Wi-Fi, so that as soon as that will get disconnected, it will get connected to your phone automatically. So there are certain settings that you will have to do with your devices. All the devices that you have, you will have to manage it accordingly. But yes, you can always refer to people who are better at these things. I am not really the right person to be answering your technological questions.
Yes, Anjali, technology wise will advise them exactly what to do.
I'm sorry, I cannot understand a word of what you're saying.
Technology wise, whatever they want, will help them.
Okay, technology wise, whatever.
We'll help them, whatever they want. We'll help them.
All right, sure. Sure, sir. Thank you. Okay, now, anyone has any questions from this slide? Learning objectives, expectations, classroom management, and group activities?
Anybody wants to?
No, ma'am, it's perfectly clear.
All right, moving ahead. Now, when it comes to English specifically, okay, English as a language. Now, there are a lot of people who believe, a lot of people, when you go to certain institutes, certain classes which are giving you spoken English training and everything, they often give you examples of how you learned your language as a child. Okay, and they tell you, okay, bachpan mein you did not read grammar, you did not have to mug up the structures as a child, and you're still speaking your native language perfectly fine. So we will teach you English that way. We will not teach you grammar. We will not teach you the patterns or the structures. That cannot happen, because one major difference that they neglect completely is that as a child, the learning ability is completely different as a grown up adult. Yes, we would all agree to that. The capacity of a child understanding and copying and implementing what they learn is way quicker than an adult. We don't grow at the same rate as we grew as children, correct? And when it comes to children, again, if you pay attention, you will realize that when children learn their native language, even then they break those languages down in structures in their mind. The difference is that they're not doing it consciously. Structures in the sense, now when it comes to English, supposedly, if a child has English as their native language, then as a child, there will be times when you will hear them. Okay, supposedly, if they hear a word, okay, they hear a word and they hear the past tense of it. They hear parents talking, and they often hear words like walk and walked. They hear words like talk, talked, call, called. And one day they will just hear that, see, the mother will say, see what I have bought for you. And they will not understand. And they will realize that, okay, what she's trying to say is bide. Or maybe the child will use it in some situation. My mom buyed this for me. Because there are certain exceptions in the language which they are not aware of. And if they are not aware of those exceptions, we do realize that the child is breaking it down in structures. Because children, as children, you do realize that we don't only speak the sentences that we have heard. The children speak all the sentences that they have not heard, infinite number of sentences that they have not heard, which means that children are not learning the language just by hearing. They are breaking it down in their mind. Acquiring your first language is a completely different process compared to your second language. Because when you're acquiring your yes, ma'am, I will be wrapping up in the next 4 minutes. Okay, so when you're acquiring your second language as a consciously as an adult, there is a completely different method of studying it, and you will have to follow it. When it comes to English language, yes, there are certain factors like pronunciations, spellings, punctuations. These are all different. These are to be taught separately. When it comes to grammar, your structures, the usage of those sentences, how it is changing and evolving with time, you have to train your students accordingly, and you have to make them habitual of using the language with comfort and convenience. Next, coming to teaching techniques, again, consistency is important. Whatever teaching techniques you are resorting to, you need to be consistent with them, because when it comes to online sessions, if the teacher is not consistent with their teaching techniques, the students will never be able to really connect with the teacher and be on the same page. And lastly, when it comes to the language, always you will stick to concept then structure, because if you just keep on giving them data to memorize as structure, that okay, it is subject plus verb plus object, and not telling them what a subject is, why it is in that position, what a verb is, and why are we putting that in the middle position, etc. You will always provide them with the concept, and then you will provide them with the structure, because once they are clear with the concept, the structure is something that will get fed in their head in a minute or two. But if you're directly giving them the structure, that is just something they're memorizing. And we all know that is not how we talk. When we are using a language, we do not really sit and try to analyze, okay, I'm speaking in this tense and this is what I want to say. So it will be have plus been plus this. And now I have to use the third form of the verb and this is how I will say it. What happened?
Ma'am, you're still online.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, that's it. And lastly, I just have two other proverbs that are to be thought about. The first one is teaching isn't 1/10 as effective as training. So we all know that teaching and training are two different processes altogether. When you're training someone, you're inculcating those values and that information in them, along with the information of how to use that knowledge. And when you're teaching someone something, you're merely giving them information, and you are providing them with something that they have to understand what to do with. And lastly, Benjamin Franklin, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. I think the rest of the points that I mentioned clearly explain what this means. Please let me know if anyone has any queries. All right, sure, sir. That would be great. Thank you everyone for attending. I shall wrap up the session now. I hope it was clear and helpful for all of you.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. It was wonderful.
Yes, ma'am, it's very informative.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice day.